Hello there guys, this is Professor De from Meter Stop Off, and today I'll be doing a very quick, hopefully less than 15 minutes condensed rules. But before that, I just want to give a huge shout out to Zangoli from the Discord, who was able to help us make some custom meter stop off zones, which you can find by searching meter stop off and clicking alt arts, and you'll find meter stop off zones here. So thank you Zangoli, and now we move on to the video. So Chaos Galaxy, just a very quick summary of what Chaos Galaxy is. Chaos Galaxy is basically where 7 planets are kind of at war, mainly Sindian and Sindel especially, but other than that there isn't exactly much else. But that's all you need to know about that. If you wish to look at the lore videos, check out Zach's channel for that. Link will also be in the description. So first we're gonna start with cards. So in Chaos Galaxy there are 4 types of cards: creatures, resources, attachments, and activators. Resource cards also have permanent resources, but we'll cover that later. So also your galaxy should consist of 34 to 60 cards, although I highly recommend you to build a less than 45 card deck, just to ensure you draw into the right cards. Just to ensure you have a high chance to draw into your good cards. To win the game, you need to gain 20 points, and to gain 20 points, you usually use your creatures to attack. There are some resources that do gain you points and win the game, but let's not focus on that right now. Also, if you can't see colors that well, don't worry, because the cards will have the card types at the bottom left corner. So resource cards have a word resource at the bottom left, attachments and activators too. Permanent resources will also say at the bottom left, while creatures will have a number, which is their star cost. So after that, of course, it's pretty self-explanatory, but your creatures, each creature comes from a certain planet other than no planet cards, but it's pretty simple. A Shias card comes from Shias, a Pelisium card comes from Pelisium, and a Sindel card comes from Sindel, so on and so forth. It is important that you try to build your deck mainly with creatures from your planet, because your planet ability is limited to those creatures. So next, your planet. Your planet is basically your battlefield, and to start the game, each player will draw the top 5 cards of their deck and gain 4 stars. This one is actually outdated. You don't draw 3 cards anymore. This is because Zach decided to make the game slightly faster and slightly more fun, and it truly makes the game much better. Of course, don't show them to your opponent, because cards in your hand should always be hidden unless an ability states otherwise. In addition, this one also doesn't state, but you also gain 4 stars. I can't remember if I said that already, but yeah, that's basically how you set up. Oh, and of course your planet card goes onto the battlefield too. Okay. Alright, so next we move on to zones. So yes, zones are the most crucial part to your planet. They're the way you play cards, they're the way you attack, and yeah. So there are three types of zones: creature, resource, and battle zones. Creature is where you play your creature cards. Resources is where you play your resource cards or permanent resource cards, and battle zones is where your creatures move into to attack. Alright, and next, to play a zone, you pay 2 stars for your first zone, 4 stars for your second zone, and 8 stars for your third, and the next one is 16 and the maximum is 20. Now, what I mean by each time you play a zone, I'm talking about, let's say you play your first creature zone. It costs 2 stars. And your first resource zone, it'll also cost 2 stars, and so will a battle zone. Essentially, you count them as they are. So, for example, I want to play a creature zone and a resource zone. Each will cost 2 stars, therefore you're paying 4 stars. I hope that kind of made sense. If your creature zone was removed in some way, so let's say you had 2 creature zones, one of them was removed, to buy back that removed zone, since it is now included as a second zone. So basically you're still paying 4 stars. I hope that was a good enough answer. If you don't understand anything, feel free to ask me on the Chaos Galaxy Discord. So next we move on to creature cards. Very simple. You got the name, the power, the health, the planet it is from, the stars, the creature's art, which is probably the best thing about Chaos Galaxy. You can also see your creature's star cost over here in case you can't count or see the stars. The creature's ability, if it has any, its rarity, and its card set. Although we ignore the rarity and card set when we're playing. But that's about it. Next is resource cards. So resource cards needs resource zone, as stated earlier, and they come in single use and permanents. Permanents stay on the battlefield or your planet for the whole game until it is killed or until the game ends. Regular resource cards are known as single use resource cards, which means they are only played once and instantly removed. Think of them as a sort of spell, one-time use spell. Also, these cards are free to play, meaning if you have your zone, you can play them and you won't need to pay stars for them. Nexus Attachments. Attachments, depending on what they ask you to attach to, they basically go under cards. So for example, Galactic Saber here is going to be attached to Menflaki. You simply put it under Menflaki. Some attachments will always be attached to creatures if it doesn't specify what it needs to be attached to. So, but yeah, that's about it. There are some attachments that are attached to permanent resources, but it will tell you. And activator cards. So activators are very similar to resource cards and therefore have to be played in resource zones. You have to take note of this because I've seen some people play activators without zones. So this is very important. Also, activators do take up your zone. So let's say if an activator was played and your opponent responds with another activator, and you wish to respond with another activator, you would need a second resource zone. This is basically known as a stack. It's not a Chaos Galaxy term, but you will understand as you continue playing. But basically, an activator card card name, card art, activation time. So basically this is the requirement to play this card, and the ability, basically what happens when you play it. So for example, this is just an example. So let's say someone played a Pelfam, your opponent responds with an Heretic Void because you cosplayed a creature, and of course it says kill that creature. So basically Pelfam would die. Excuse me. Combiner creatures. So combiner creatures are special type of creatures. They take up 2 zones, and they are 2 separate cards. Basically, combiner creatures, when they are played onto a creature zone, they take 2 zones, and when they attack, they take up 2 zones also. And one thing, if one part of the combiner is killed or somehow removed from the game, and the second part is also removed from the game, will basically die. So let's say if Pelfam return one side of it to your hand, the other part will die. Alright, this one needs to be FAQ'd actually, now that I think about it. But I'll check with the other members, because this one I'm not entirely sure of, because it rarely happens. But basically, when attacking a combiner creature, you treat it as one creature. But when you play a combiner creature, you treat it as 2 separate cards being played. And also, you need to play both cards at once. This is very important. So basically, if you're stuck with one side of a card, you can't just play it and hope to draw for the second one. You have to play them both at once. Nexus Battlezones, as explained earlier, basically your creatures from your creature zone move into the battle zone and declare what they are attacking. For example, this Drangel here moves into the battle zone, declares to attack maybe this Jellyfish, and if there was a second battle zone, this Boggy Booga could go move into it and declare an attack on the planet card. So now we move on to actual battling. So to battle, you compare the creature's power and the opposing and the attacked creature's health. Basically, if your power is higher than the opposing creature's health, you smash through that creature and that creature dies. If the opposing creature has more health and you have less power than its health, you smash into it and your creature dies. If both are the same, this is known as a trade and both creatures die. I hope that was understandable. And of course, you could attack your opponent's planet directly, which would basically, and you would gain points this way. That's how you win the game. So let's take Drangel for this example. So let's say he has 320 power. To calculate how many points you get, divide this its power value by 100. If the value is such that so in this case, if I divide 320 by 100, it gives me 3.2, and because it's 3.2, we round down, and therefore you only gain 3 points. This is just sort of like simple math, but if you're unsure, simply ask your opponent. If not, just ask someone on the team on the Discord. And but of course, if it was, let's say Drangel was 350 power and it's 3.5 rounds up. But I would assume most of you guys would understand. It is explained over here. Oh, and here too, so that's cool. Yeah, take note of this table if you can't do much math. Some other information, card numbers, and that's about it. I hope, I don't think I was able to hit the time limit. I'm not sure, I'll have to double check. But if you guys want to know the rules, simply go to the Chaos Galaxy with wixsite.com, go under more and go under rules. You'll find this rule PDF over here. Just click on it and it'll open up this full rules that are just summed up for you.